There is a silent truth that few dare to admit. A paradox that rules the game of life, hidden in plain sight. The more you force life, the less it works. You can clench your fists. You can scream your affirmations. You can push until your veins bulge and your knuckles bleed. But the river doesn't move faster because you shout at it. Life is not a machine to be hammered into obedience. It is not a code to be cracked with brute logic. It is a current, deep, vast, and ancient. And when you try to conquer it by force, it slips through your fingers like sand in a storm. We've been fed the myth of domination. That success is a battle to be won. That hustle is holy. That sleep is for the weak. That control is the secret. But what if the very effort to control is what breaks the flow? Look at nature. Does the tree rush to grow? Does the sun rise early to prove itself? Does the eagle flap harder to fly higher, or does it ride the wind? This is not weakness. This is not surrender. This is alignment. And it is stronger than force could ever be. But don't mistake this for passivity. This is not about sitting still and waiting for life to happen. No, this is the mastery of knowing when to move, and when to trust. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb by brute force. He failed 1,000 times, not because he pushed, but because he listened. To what didn't work. To what wanted to be discovered. There's a rhythm to greatness. A patience beneath the power. A space between action and result. And those who rush to fill that space with control often miss the lesson it was trying to teach. Discipline, yes. Relentlessness, yes. But not desperation. Desperation clouds your mind. It makes you reactive, not wise. True power comes not from forcing the world to bend, but from becoming the kind of person who moves with it. Who sees the signs, reads the winds, trusts the tide. Marcus Aurelius knew this. Stoicism wasn't about being emotionless. It was about inner stillness in the storm. About doing what must be done, without being owned by the outcome. There is a kind of strength in letting go. Not of action, but of obsession. See, the mind is a tool, not a tyrant. But when you force life, your mind becomes a hammer. And every moment looks like a nail. You wake up tense. You race through tasks. You treat the day like a battlefield. And then you wonder why your spirit feels bruised before noon. But the ones who rise, the ones who last, are those who know how to center before they conquer. Clarity is not born from chaos. It is born in stillness. The greats, Carnegie, Ford, Disney, they all knew. Vision comes not from forcing the future, but from seeing it so vividly that life starts to bend around your belief. Not because you demand it, but because you become it. That is the paradox. When you try to force success, it slips. But when you embody success, the world responds. Your energy is your message. Your state is your magnet. And the more you operate from lack, the more life mirrors back scarcity, resistance, friction. But when you act from wholeness, from alignment, life meets you halfway. This is not just philosophy. It's physics. It's resonance. Two frequencies can't coexist in harmony if they're out of sync. You want a powerful life? Then tune yourself before you try to move the world. You cannot build a clear future with a clouded heart. You cannot birth a vision from the soil of fear. And yet, every day, millions try. They chase love while feeling unlovable. They chase wealth while fearing lack. They chase purpose without knowing who they are. But the truth is simple, radically simple. You attract not what you want. You attract what you are. That's why mindset isn't optional. It is the foundation. You don't become unstoppable by working harder than everyone else. You become unstoppable by thinking differently, by believing differently, by feeling differently. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can, or think you can't, you're right." That's not just clever. It's prophetic. Because belief isn't passive. It creates. It shapes your actions, your tone, your posture, your persistence. The man who believes in his vision will walk through fire. The one who doubts will crumble at the first wind. So stop trying to control the world. Control the lens you look through. Stop demanding certainty. Build inner conviction so strong that even when the path is unclear, your feet keep moving. Not from pressure, from purpose. And what is purpose, if not the compass for your life? Not the map, but the magnet. It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It whispers. It pulls. And when you try to force your way through life without it, you burn out. You chase the wrong things. You climb ladders that lead nowhere. Because without purpose, effort is empty. You can be busy and still be lost. But when purpose is alive in you, even the hard days have meaning. Even the struggle becomes sacred. Look at Lincoln. He lost more elections than he won. Faced depression, war, hatred, failure. But he kept going, not because of ego, but because of vision. Because of conviction. Purpose isn't comfort. It is calling. It doesn't promise ease. It demands growth. And the more you chase success for applause, the more it eludes you. But when you chase it for impact, for service, for truth, it begins to chase you. Because now you're not forcing life. You're living it. There's something profound that happens when you align with your purpose. Life stops feeling like resistance, and starts feeling like rhythm. Like a song you were born to sing. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. Discipline becomes devotion. Work becomes worship. And obstacles, they become part of the path, not detours, not punishments, preparation. But if you try to force purpose, if you fabricate it just to sound impressive, it crumbles at the first blow. Purpose is not a branding exercise. It is the collision between your pain and your potential. It's what remains when everything fake is stripped away. And once you know it, once you feel it in your bones, discipline no longer feels like sacrifice. It feels like sacred commitment. Because you're not just grinding anymore. You're becoming. And yet, discipline without clarity becomes drudgery. Too many people wake up grinding, sweating, pushing. But they don't know where they're going. They think movement equals progress. But directionless speed only takes you further from yourself. So slow down. Get clear. Not just on what you want, but on why. Why does it matter? What pain are you trying to heal in others? What beauty are you trying to bring to the world? Once you find that, you'll stop forcing the day. You'll lead it. And then, when action follows, it won't come from fear or pressure, but from power. But let me speak now of action. Real, unfiltered, messy, courageous action. Not the kind that waits for perfection. Not the kind that checks 10 boxes before making a move. But the kind that leaps. Because while life cannot be forced, it must be moved. You cannot just sit in meditation forever. You cannot manifest a mountain without climbing it. The world belongs to the bold. But boldness is not aggression. It is alignment in motion. When the Wright brothers launched their fragile machine into the wind, they weren't forcing gravity to surrender. They were working with it, understanding it, dancing with the laws of the universe rather than defying them. And that's the secret most never learn. Action is not about friction. It's about flow with force. Just enough pressure to shape reality, but never so much that it breaks the rhythm. You don't need to scream to be heard by life. You need to speak in its language. And its language is intention, effort, surrender, repeat. Get up early. Move with urgency. But don't chase every minute like a starving man chasing crumbs. Own the moment. But let go of the outcome. Do the work. Release the timeline. This is the art of powerful living. To give everything, without clinging to anything. And in that space of effort without obsession, gratitude blooms. Not as a cliché. Not as a bumper sticker on your fridge. But as a weapon. Because gratitude is what turns pressure into peace. It reminds you that you're not lacking, you're building. You're not waiting, you're becoming. And that shift, that one change in emotional state, can turn a bad day into a breakthrough. Gratitude doesn't mean you're satisfied with less. It means you recognize the value of now, even as you work for more. It grounds you. It humbles you. It clears the fog of entitlement and reminds you that you are already inside the miracle. Every breath, every heartbeat, every lesson disguised as a setback, is a gift, a teacher, a clue. The more you appreciate, the more you activate. Because life expands in response to your attention. Focus on lack. You get more scarcity. Focus on possibility. You open new doors. Andrew Carnegie once said, "Think of yourself as on the threshold of unparalleled success. Not because it's delusion, but because belief creates behavior. And behavior shapes reality. So plant your feet in the moment. Lift your eyes to what's possible. And meet the day not as a beggar, but as a builder." But what happens when the plan collapses? When the dream delays? When the very thing you thought would lift you, breaks you? This is where adaptability enters. The trait that separates those who fall from those who rise again. The oak tree may be strong, but it's the bamboo that survives the storm. Rigidity snaps. Flexibility endures. When you force life, you resist change. You cling to one outcome, one path, one image of how it should be. But life is not a fixed blueprint. It is a living organism. And it will challenge you, test you, surprise you. You must be able to pivot without panic. To bend without breaking. To let go of the plan without letting go of the mission. Walt Disney was fired for lacking creativity. Colonel Sanders launched KFC after age 60. They didn't cling to failure. They adapted through it. You are not what happens to you. You are what you do with it. The most successful souls are not the most talented. They are the most resilient. Resilience is not a moment. It's not a quote on a wall. It's a lifestyle. A quiet fire that refuses to go out. Even when the winds howl and the sky darkens. You don't develop resilience by reading about it. You earn it. In the long nights when no one's watching. In the failure that no one celebrates. In the silence after the fall, when the only sound is your own breath. And the decision to rise. You rise not because it's easy. Not because you have guarantees. But because you've decided that your story is not over. Lincoln didn't give up after his defeats. He let them forge his spirit. He wore every scar like armor. Because resilience isn't about being unbroken. It's about being rebuilt stronger. So the next time life punches you in the gut, don't ask, why me? Ask, what now? The ones who win are not immune to pain. They are intimate with it. They just refuse to let it define them. They know every setback carries a seed. Not of doom, but of destiny. But you have to be willing to stay long enough to find it. To lean in. To learn. Because that's the next truth few will tell you. You must learn faster than life changes. Learning is not something you finish. It's something you become. The day you stop learning is the day you start dying. Not physically, but spiritually. The mind that thinks it knows everything misses the miracle right in front of it. Einstein remained a student his entire life. He said, "The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know." That is not humility. That is power. Because knowledge is fuel. But wisdom. Wisdom is the fire that transforms it. And wisdom is only gained through experience plus reflection. Pain without reflection is just suffering. But pain plus reflection, that's the formula for growth. So don't just move through life. Study it. Study your failures. Study your patterns. Study the people who live with the kind of quiet strength you admire. Your next breakthrough is buried under what you haven't yet understood. And that requires ego death. It requires curiosity. It requires the courage to say, "I was wrong." And to ask, "What can I do better?" Learning is the ladder. And humility is the first rung. But here's the divine twist. As you grow, as you learn, as you evolve, you begin to see that everything was always working. Even the delays. Even the detours. Even the heartbreaks. What once felt like resistance reveals itself as refinement. The rejection that broke your heart was the redirection that saved your soul. The failure that shattered your ego was the catalyst that awakened your real identity. This is when you stop needing to force life. Because you trust it. Not blindly. Not passively. But deeply. You begin to move with life. Not behind it. Not in front of it. With it. Like a great dancer responding to the music. You don't control every beat. But you feel when to move. That is true mastery. And it only arrives when you've surrendered the need to control everything. You stop saying, "It must happen this way." And you start saying, "Whatever comes, I will meet it with power." Because in the end, power is not about domination. It's about presence. The most powerful people in the world do not shout. Do not beg. Do not chase. They move with certainty. With grace. With calm intensity. They've learned that life does not respond to desperation. It responds to alignment. It responds to energy. To clarity. To quiet conviction. So you want to change your life? Stop forcing it. Start becoming the version of you that life can't ignore. You don't chase opportunity. You become prepared for it. You don't beg for love. You embody it. You don't control the storm. You become the eye within it. And when you reach that level, when your mindset, your purpose, your actions, your gratitude, and your wisdom are all aligned, life starts to open. Not because it was closed, but because you finally stopped banging on the wrong door. You listened. You adjusted. You became the key. And now, you're no longer fighting life. You're dancing with it. You're shaping it, like an artist with the clay of time. Because the truth is, the more you try to force life, the more you signal that you don't trust it. But life is not your enemy. It is your mirror. Your partner. Your playground. Your battlefield. And it is waiting, begging, for you to stop resisting. And to start responding. To step into the arena not with fear, but with fierce grace. With quiet fire. With the full weight of your awakened self. So take the hands off the wheel. Not to drift, but to drive from within. This is your life. This is your moment. Not to dominate, but to resonate. Not to push the river, but to flow with purpose. Not to force life, but to trust it deeply enough to meet it fully. Now rise. Not with urgency, but with undeniable presence. And let the world feel who you've become. Not because you screamed, but because you moved in alignment. Because you became the truth. And nothing is more powerful than that.